The NATO summit gets underway in Lithuania, with membership for Ukraine and increased funding for the alliance top of the agenda.
The death toll from Russia's strike on an aid delivery centre in Orachiv rises to 7, while volunteers help clear homes of debris after the Kakhovka dam breach.
Doubts remain over whether the Black Sea grain deal between Ukraine and Russia will be renewed as the deadline draws closer.
Spain's incumbent Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez and Alberto Núñez Feijóo, the leader of the Conservative opposition, battle it out in a televised debate.
The NATO summit is underway in the Lithuanian capital of Vilnius. The military alliance had a major boost on the eve of the meeting, with the Swedish membership issue resolved, thanks to Turkey dropping its veto. The success bodes well for one of NATO's most pivotal summits. Over the next few days, the mission is to convince Russia that members are united in their commitment to supporting Ukraine. President Zelensky, who may attend the meeting, is demanding NATO membership, if not now, soon.
Надзвичайно активно працюємо цими днями, ще активніше, ніж будь-коли, і хоч ця робота майже на 100% зараз. За лаштунками її значення не менше, ніж будь-якої публічної роботи. Все розуміють, кожен лідер, кожна держава, навіть якщо озвучуються різні позиції, все ж очевидно, що Україна заслуговує бути в альянсі. Не зараз війна, але нам потрібен чіткий сигнал. І сигнал потрібен саме зараз.
Besides their support for Ukraine, a strategy for Russia is also on the agenda. NATO allies are already said to have reached agreement on defence plans, detailing how the alliance would respond to a Russian attack. This is a major swerve away from normal NATO policy. The alliance says it needs a new approach to deal with Russia, which is now viewed as an existential threat. The summit lasts 2 days. One indication of success will be measured in a collective effort to increase funding of the alliance. All members are supposed to contribute 2% of their GDP to defence spending. At the moment, only 7 members do so.
Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has set aside his veto against Sweden's application to join NATO. Following this, Hungary, the only other country yet to agree to Stockholm's accession, has said it too will ratify the move. Speaking ahead of the NATO summit in the Lithuanian capital Vilnius, the alliance's chief Jens Stoltenberg was clear about the benefits.
This is good for all of us. This is good for Sweden. Sweden will become a full member of the alliance. It's good for Turkey, because Turkey is a NATO ally that will benefit from a stronger NATO. And then, of course, it's good for the whole alliance.
Intense diplomatic efforts have led to this point. Accession to NATO must be unanimously agreed to by members. So Turkey, which was reluctant to back Sweden because of its sympathies towards Kurdish separatists, was in a strong position. Erdogan even suggested Turkey's EU membership be tied into the negotiations. That received a swift no from EU Council President Charles Michel. But in a later tweet following his talks with the Turkish president, Michel said the EU's relations with Turkey have been re-energized. There are also suggestions Erdogan may have made progress in his demand for American F-16 fighter jets during talks at the weekend with President Joe Biden. Germany and the UK have welcomed Sweden's success. Hungary is yet to give its go-ahead, but has indicated it will be following suit.
The death toll from Sunday's Russian strike on a humanitarian aid delivery centre in the southern Ukrainian city of Orachiv has risen to 7. Rescuers have finished combing the rubble. The centre was inside a school. Orachiv is near the front line where Ukrainian forces were pushing to recapture heavily fortified positions from Moscow's forces last month. The regional governor denounced the strike as a war crime. Volunteers who had previously helped evacuate people from flooded streets after the Kakhovka dam burst are now clearing houses of debris brought by the water. In the Kherson region, locals have little left of their homes or belongings.
Жалко всех людей, которые попали под затопление, то что у них все, они уже остались без жилья, все пропало, Даже стены уже рушатся, потолки, все, крыши.
Ukraine's State Emergency Service has shared a video of firefighters coming under enemy shelling while extinguishing a fire within the Donetsk region. They made a dash to find shelter. No one was injured.
With just a week to go until the expiration of the deal allowing Ukrainian grain exports via the Black Sea, uncertainty still remains over whether Moscow will back down on its threat not to extend the export agreement with Kiev. Russia says that poor countries received no more than 3% of the approximately 30 million tons of Ukrainian cereals and other similar products exported since July last year under the agreement. But it's a charge that the European Commission rejects.
Russia, even though it's claiming that the deal is profiting Europeans or Ukrainians, Russia is actually recording increased profits from their own trade in fertilizers and wheat and grains, which they are also stealing from Ukraine. So anything that comes from Russia are basically just lies, lies and lies connected to the illegal campaign against Ukraine.
Moscow is also demanding the lifting of barriers to the export of its other products. One of the most important is the possibility for the Russian Agricultural Bank to be accepted back into the SWIFT international payment system. The grain initiative was negotiated by the United Nations, which tells Euronews that it recognizes Moscow's concerns.
Russia has made some reasonable requests about what needs to happen in order for it to be able to have its exports on world markets. And those exports are not under sanction and should be allowed to reach world markets. But there have been different hurdles. Bureaucratic hurdles, legal hurdles, hurdles involving what decisions businesses are willing to take and are not willing to take.
Another mediator of the deal was Turkey, which Ukrainian President Zelensky visited last Saturday. He wants to see an extension of the agreement. But if there is no deal, food prices are likely to rise and worsen the humanitarian crisis in some countries like Afghanistan, Ethiopia and Kenya.
Heat waves and heated debates. As Spain battles through the second hot spell of the summer, the two contenders poised to lead the country's next government battled it out on the little screen. With less than 2 weeks to go until July's snap general election, outgoing Socialist Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez and Popular Party leader Alberto Núñez Feijóo spent 100 minutes talking over each other and hurling insults.
Y lo que le digo a los españoles es que yo no soy perfecto, no aspiro a serlo, he cometido errores. He tenido un mandato absolutamente difícil, inédito, con una pandemia y una guerra ahora mismo en las puertas de Europa. Pero ¿sabe lo que le digo, señor Feijóo? Que yo soy un político limpio. Soy un político limpio.
Conservative Feijóo, who could win the vote if he secures the support of the far right, called for a solid majority and slammed Sánchez's government for relying on the ultra-left.
No le diré al señor Zelensky que le voy a ayudar militarmente y una parte de mi coalición diciendo que lo que hay que hacer es rebajar el gasto y filtrar con Putin. Yo eso no lo voy a hacer, señor Feijóo.
¿Puedo hablar?
Soy un político europeísta, atlantista y constituido.
Who won the only televised debate of the campaign? Analysts are divided on the answer, but most agree it was not Sánchez, despite the advantage he had over Feijóo as the incumbent Prime Minister.
A volcano near Iceland's capital Reykjavik has erupted after a strong earthquake hit the nation on Sunday. Local media footage showed a massive cloud of smoke rising from the ground, as well as a substantial flow of lava. It's the third time in 2 years that lava has gushed out of the volcano, which is about 30 kilometers from the city. Iceland's meteorological office says no ash has been admitted, and so far no disruption has been reported at the country's main airport.
The path is now clear for data transfers between the EU and United States after a decision by the European Commission on Monday. 3 years ago, the bloc's top court struck down a deal between the two sides that allowed for the passage of personal data from the EU to US companies. But now, after years of political wrangling, Brussels has adopted the so-called Transatlantic Data Privacy Framework. The EU's Justice Commissioner says it means that the US is now ensuring that European data has an adequate level of protection.
With the adoption of the adequacy decision, personal data can now flow freely and safely from the European Economic Area to the United States without any further conditions or authorizations. Therefore, the adequacy decision ensures that data can be transmitted between the European Union and the US on the basis of a stable and trusted arrangement that protects individuals and provides legal certainty to companies.
Brussels says it's confident that the new rules meet the requirements of the European Court of Justice, which raised concerns over the US intelligence community's access to the data of EU citizens. But privacy campaigner Max Schrems, who brought down the two previous data transfer agreements between Brussels and Washington, has already announced that he will appeal the decision. He says that the new deal is just a copy of the previous one, and that the European Commission is just ignoring the court. For Victoria Espinel from the US-based Software Alliance, the deal comes as a relief after years of uncertainty, even if it will be challenged.
We represent software developers in the United States and around the world, but this is really about the customers of our companies. Those are the businesses and every sector of the economy that rely on being able to transfer data for all sorts of reasons, including payroll. This is very important to companies. So having a straightforward, predictable way to transfer data is very important for the economy.
A major part of the new agreement is what Brussels is calling a two-tier redress system. In this, complaints by Europeans about the unlawful accessing of data by US intelligence authorities can now be investigated and resolved.